It's Thursday morning here in New York. I'm at West 49th Street at the NBC studios. I'm doing Morning Joe with Joe Scarborough. Joe's a little crazy. He thinks I'm very crazy. I'll go up and do battle with him. But it's going to be a long day in New York. Actually, a very interesting day. After this, I'm going off to the foot doctor, which is not overly interesting. Banged on my ankle in the Army, and I got to get it put together every now and then. So I'm back for a checkup today on that. More importantly, after that, I'm going to the funeral at St. Patrick's Cathedral for Governor Carey, who is a great governor of New York, good friend. Really, it's an honor to be at his funeral, and so I'll be going to that. And then afterwards, I'm going to lunch with Dennis Smith, the best-selling author and former firefighter, who has a book coming out on 9/11. There's a chapter in the book that I'm a part of. So it's a dialogue with Dennis in the meeting of 9/11. So anyway, off to do Scarborough, then the doctor, then Governor Carey's funeral, and then lunch with Dennis Smith. But right now, let me go off and fight with Joe Scarborough. What should I say now, right?
What's that?
When does this become a live mic? Now?
Couple minutes. Or I can wait until you get out to the floor. If you'd like me to turn it on right there, I can do that.
What do you want? You're in charge. I'm just a guest of Joe Scarborough. That's all. Oh, still putting me together here?
Yeah, still putting me together.
Okay. It's like on the electric chair. So tell Scarborough I didn't have any cream here for the coffee.
Hi, how are you? Good morning.
How are you?
We're gonna do a tease from in here. If that's okay.
I gotta look like I'm happy to be here with Scarborough?
Exactly. You are happy to be here with him, right?
I like Mika, I don't like Joe.
Turn this way for me. Pop that in your ear.
Okay.
Here's the program.
There you go.
Loud enough for you?
Fine. Deal, I need. Good enough.
And we
There
are
you go.
live.
We are the
Here we
celebrity
are.
here. Here we go.
All right. Okay.
Hour joining us now, Republican Congressman from New York and chair of the House Homeland Security Committee, Representative Peter King. Good to have
Morning,
you
Mick.
on
Great
board
to be
this
here.
morning. A lot of congressman types here. And in Des
What are you
Moines,
talking
Iowa.
about?
Well,
There's a
you know,
quorum
we're not in the club, Meacham and me.
Let me ask you this
Yeah.
question.
Well, I got to get to Chuck.
Well, Chuck's here.
Yes,
Say hi
from
to
Des
Chuck.
Moines, Iowa, NBC News
guys.
Chief White House Correspondent and Political
Wait,
Director and
we're
host of
even
the
now.
Daily Rundown. Looking good in Des Moines.
So there's
Feeling
Rick
good.
Perry here.
Feeling
Let's show a
good, Billy
picture of Rick Perry here. Well, we'll get the lighting a little better. There
you
we go. Praying to Jesus in front of as many political supporters as humanly possible. I'm just wondering, Peter King, how's that going to play out on Long Island where the swing voters come next November? Does that work?
Well, it'll work as well as you would have done when you were in Congress if you came to Long Island. You know, you guys from the Panhandle.
Hey,
Oh, seriously, how would Rick Perry?
I'm not making it about me, but I will tell you I do a hell of a lot better on Long Island than Rick Perry. But
No, actually,
Oh,
not what you're
stop
saying.
it now.
No, I think you're part of this
You might
regional.
be
I think
fine.
that when people in the Republican primaries see people in the mainstream media, if you want to call that, maybe ridiculing Rick Perry or saying too much prayer. I mean, that's not my style. I mean, Irish Catholics don't do that. But having said that,
Irish Catholics don't pray.
well, we don't do it that way. But I mean, I've met Rick Perry a number of times. I think he's a dynamic personality. He's a larger-than-life character.
Yeah.
And I think people are going to look at the whole picture. And he's, again...
And by the way, buddy, I'm a Baptist. We do pray. I just, it looks awfully
No,
simple.
I agree with you. That is not my style. But again...
But I just got asked, though, again, the question is the Republican Party going to nominate somebody who can win in swing districts on Long Island, who can win in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, who can win in the I-4 corridor? Or are they going to nominate people like Rick Perry, Michelle Bachmann, who will not win a general election?
I wouldn't be sure. I wouldn't write him off. You go back to 1979, all the Carter people were hoping that Ronald Reagan would run because they knew that he couldn't win.
So
well,
you think Rick Perry can win Long Island?
I'm saying, sure he could. Run against Barack Obama right now, I think he could, yes, depending on how he campaigns over the next year. Right now, President Obama is...
So you're a Rick Perry man?
I know Governor Perry. No, actually, I'd be a Chris Christie or Rudy Giuliani man.
Yeah.
Oh dear, that's what's going to happen.
You fire guns at rallies? Wear big cowboy hats?
But again, it's a big... Joe, you're the guy who was always telling me when I was in Congress, I was this narrow-minded New Yorker, and you were this... You understood Scarborough country. I'm just saying, I think Rick Perry may appeal to Scarborough country.
I think there are a lot of people in Scarborough country would be nervous that
let me just say something about... Again, I'm not here as a cheerleader for Rick Perry.
Sounds like you are.
No, you're putting him in a bad position.
No, Joe, let me say a point. I remember 2 years ago in Washington, everybody said that Rick Perry was gone, that Kay Bailey Hutchins was going to wipe him out. It wasn't even close. Yeah. And he ended up beating it 2-1 in the primary. Don't sell him short.
Okay, good point.
There
Chuck
you go.
Todd.
I put in a 10-second plug today. After this, I'm going to a funeral for Governor Carey, one of the greatest governors New York ever had. And I think all of us owe him a tremendous debt of thanks, saving New York City, saving New York State, and really being a leader.
St. Patrick's.
Thank you.
You carry a real leader, governor back during the 1970s. Let's go to Chuck Todd now. Chuck Todd, fascinating. We've got a Long Island congressman who is getting behind Rick Perry, the president. What's the impact?
Boy, that was some endorsement. I caught the whole Chris Christie aspect of that.
Exactly.
That said, and I think, well, let's see how Perry plays. But, what's been interesting out here, and I heard you talking about it earlier, guys, is that here we are. There's a straw poll Saturday, there's a debate tonight, and yet it's two candidates, not in the debate, not in the straw poll, who are cast in a shadow, Rick Perry, Sarah Palin. And Palin, it's more of, she found out 700 journalists have shown up, so she suddenly wants to, I guess, come over here, bring the bus, drive it over here, drive it around Iowa. But it says something about this field, and it goes back to, you're sitting there going back, a Republican's really going to nominate Perry, but I think there's an absolute battle inside the party right now between Republican heads and Republican hearts. And Romney is sort of the pick you would make if you're using your head. But I don't know if that's where primary voters are this year. I think they want to go with their hearts. I think they're tired. I think in their minds they're tired of settling.
So who's looking strong out there? Are you sensing any momentum on the ground?
Well, I'll tell you this, Bachmann has all the energy. I mean, it's, when you remember these rallies from 4 years ago and you'd sit there and you'd be like, oh, wow, Obama's got a lot of energy at these things. Huckabee's got energy. It's Bachmann that has the excitement at her stops. Tim Pawlenty. I mean, right now, if you look at the game out here right now with the 48 hours, it's Tim Pawlenty versus Michelle Bachmann, right? At this point, because of Perry getting in, it is really only going to be room for who wins the straw poll to grab a little bit of momentum out of it at this point. Bachmann being the Iowa frontrunner for all intents and purposes, if you look at the polls, she really has to win in many cases, and Pawlenty needs to win to sort of charge up the campaign again. He's thrown all his money in. He's going to be broke after the straw poll, and so if he doesn't win, he's really got nowhere to go. The energy level between the two types of rallies, between when you see a Bachmann stop versus Pawlenty, I mean, it's night and day.
Unbelievable. So how many people show up at the Bachmann rallies right now?
Well, it's a couple hundred, and Pawlenty's getting less than 100. I mean, that's sort of the difference. But it's also the demeanor of the candidates. Body language matters. So you could tell the candidates that are just getting a little frustrated. Yeah. And you see it in Pawlenty, you see it in Rick Santorum, frankly. I mean, I tell you, that guy who has spent a lot of time in Iowa really thought he could be the guy that could tap into the social conservative core that is inside the Iowa Republican Party here, and he hasn't caught fire at all. And he's lashing out a little bit at Rick Perry, lashing out at some others. You can sense his frustration, you sense it, just the body language. Meanwhile, Bachmann is up there, she's having fun, she's enjoying it, she's cheering on her supporters, very responsive. And so body language can speak, can tell you a lot sometimes.
Yeah. All right, Congressman Peter King, obviously Congress is out of session till September. Should the president call everybody back to deal with the economic crisis?
If he has a plan, I mean, I'm not going anywhere. I'll be happy to go back if they want me to go back. But just to have 435 guys sitting around and going through what we did for the 2 months leading up to the debt showdown, I would say no. But if the president has a plan to put on the table, if he did want to do something, he and Boehner and Pelosi should get together beforehand, have some sort of parameters, as even if they don't agree about what we're going to debate on, and then we go back. Yeah, but other than that, just to go back, I think it would make the situation worse. We just go down and have people making speeches and attacking each other.
Well, what about the possibility of a grand bargain? We talked about a grand bargain when we all had a gun to our head with the debt ceiling needing to be raised. What about now, doing it in August? Wouldn't that calm the markets?
I would support a grand bargain. I thought that John Boehner and President Obama were really onto something, and then both the bases in both parties sort of, I think, blew that up. But I would think that if we can talk about real entitlement reform, we can talk about having new revenues, whether or not you're talking about raising taxes or just doing away with certain loopholes, bringing the corporate tax down, but doing away with other loopholes. Yeah, that's the possibility. I don't see it happening in August. If it didn't happen in May, June, and July, I don't see it happening now. Hopefully, maybe something like that can happen between Labor Day and Thanksgiving.
Couldn't Boehner get the same people and Nancy Pelosi get the same people that voted to increase the debt ceiling in a grand bargain where you had 45 Democrats voting for the package?
95. It was 95.
Yeah, 95 Democrats on board, a majority of the Republicans. It seems to me that the middle could find a solution here.
I would like to think so, but again, I don't know. I mean, that's really up to the Speaker and
yeah,
the
but you're on the inside. What is working? Everybody talks about the Tea Party, the Tea Party, the Tea Party. 45 people voted no in the Tea Party. The could roll the Tea Party if they wanted to.
Let me just say there is more influence there than you think, because there were a lot of others who barely voted yes or were very concerned about a Tea Party primary. The Democrats, you talk about the 95 Democrats, I guess, that voted yes. I don't know how many of them would if there were real changes made to Medicare or to Social Security. I think a lot of them would bail out. This is tough to do during summer months. But I thought the Speaker and the President were really onto something. I give both of them credit what they tried to do, and it's unfortunate that that deal fell apart, because I think that that's really where we have to go.
Doesn't it get ever harder, though, Congressman, if you haven't done it, if you don't try to do it in August, if you try to think about Thanksgiving, then you're even closer to the election?
I would say no. I would say right now you have members of Congress back home listening to what people are saying. Listen, I'm ready to go tomorrow. I'm one of these guys. You can ask my wife. I don't go on vacations. I just hang out. So I have no problem going back. But I just think you have to have so much in place for that. And what could be more helpful is have leadership on both sides be meeting and planning something, so when we do come back around Labor Day, that there's some action plan to work off of.
Chuck Todd, the White House has brushed aside the idea of bringing Congress back, trying to do a grand bargain now. Does it look like the president's just going to ride out August, go to Martha's Vineyard and wait for September to start moving?
Well, assuming the markets don't do what they keep doing, I think, in talking to a couple of aides over the last couple of days about the issue here of this idea, does he got to come out and, is it a grand gesture like bringing Congress back? And I think there's some that are winning the argument in the West Wing that say that's a little too cute, a little too tactical. But if we have another 3 days of this, and even next Monday or Tuesday, where it just feels as if the economy, even though it's a global issue in Europe, as this falling off the cliff aspect, right? And we're going through these gyrations of the markets, and it's creating more uncertainty. What I was told is, yes, over the next 48 hours, assuming everything just sort of ratchets back to a little bit of normalcy, they're going to ride out August. But don't rule anything out if this volatility continues.
Chuck Todd, thank you very much. We'll see you on the Daily Rundown right after Morning Joe. Congressman Peter King, thank you as well.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Joe. It's always a pleasure.
Coming up next, Tavis Smiley and Dr. Cornel West. Keep it right here on Morning Joe.
finished having lunch here at Smith Walensky with Dennis Smith, an old friend, great friend, terrific writer, world-renowned firefighter, and he just has a book out now, coming out this week, Decade of Hope, about September 11th, what it meant, what happened, and what it means for the future. Dennis gave me a copy. I'm actually in the book. Dennis, I want to thank you very much for it.
Oh, Pete, that's great.
Thank you.
I'll tell you, I've never spent a moment with you that I didn't learn something. That's
It goes double for me.
It's a great tribute.
Thank you,
Thanks
Dennis.
a lot.
Thank you. Good luck on the book. Thank you. Thank you.